It is just a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing four legends in dentistry. Jen Garcia is on the far left, James Dodge, Ray Foster, and Shaheen Safarian, who we just podcasted earlier and gave me the lead. Thank you, Shaheen, for this lead. It's a Las Vegas Aesthetics Dental Lab, LVE. It was founded in 1997 by Ray Foster. Dental labs are becoming more important in dental practices as our profession continues to grow and new technologies are introduced. They love what they do and want to make things easier for dentists and form a strong team. They know they can produce high-quality lab work with the latest technologies at disposals in their lab. The best way to provide this care to the patient is to make sure that the dentist communicates with them to make sure they are meeting patient expectations. Their goal is to make dentists better with their services. They are very excited to be joining Dr. Shaheen Safarian and his national program called Love Bites. Not the Japanese all-girl heavy metal band, which is what I recommend that you review first. Then go to Love Bites Dental. They know they can save dentists money on their lab costs with this campaign of up to 50% for some dentists. And with the live training and marketing that this program offers the dentist, it'll be a win-win for the dentist and the patient and the lab. Providing predictable dentistry at the highest quality with financial savings for the dentist and the consumer makes total sense to them. Why don't you guys introduce yourself? Why don't we start on the left? With Jen Garcia, but Jen is actually spelled Y-I-N. So,
yes.
And what's that?
I was going to say it's my name is the Korean symbol, the yin yang, the yin and the yang. That's my name. But in Spanish, I'm from Mexico originally, but in Spanish it's pronounced Jin. So yin yang.
Wow. And you know why Jen was created?
No,
they actually thought gin, or Tanqueray as I call it, was actually repelled mosquitoes for malaria. So they actually would, so all the Navy people, their beverage of choice was gin because they thought that would help them against malaria. But I don't know if you're having any malaria outbreaks in Las Vegas.
Is that a true story?
That's a true story. Absolutely. And So Jen Garcia. So why don't you introduce yourself and then we'll go left to right.
Yeah, definitely. My name is Jen Garcia. I'm the production manager here at Las Vegas Aesthetics, and I've been here part of the team for about 15 years. And basically, I love my job, everything I do here. As a production manager, I take care of following the cases when they come through the lab. From unpacking through each one of the departments, model room, waxing. All the way to the ceramic and the QC part of it. So that's kind of what I do here at the lab.
Okay, I got not to interrupt, but do you prefer receiving oral scans as opposed to vinyl poly siloxane impressions? I mean, because you're the receiving end of these impressions and oral scans, so I want to start right there. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, there's some pros and some cons for both of them. I personally, right now, I like the digital end, just quicker. Also, there's no need for us to clean any of the impressions. Digital format it's pretty efficient. So I like the digital aspect of things. It's
a piece of technology with a lot of brand names. I mean, if you do a lot of Invisalign, I could see why you'd want to go with iTero, because iTero and Invisalign are owned by Align Technology. 3M has a True Depth scanner here in the States. Copenhagen, Denmark has the 3Shape. There's all kinds of oral scanners. If someone was listening to you right now and wanted to be a cosmetic dentist, is there a scan that you significantly prefer more than the others?
We here at the lab, we have two systems. We have the CEREC system, and we also have the 3Shape system. So we're very versatile with both of them. But personally, I like the CEREC community, the CEREC scanner. The Prime Scan, the new scanner that came out, it works beautifully. What's
the brand name of that CEREC?
The branding would be Dentsply Sirona.
The what?
Dentsply Sirona.
No, but I mean, which new scanner? You said new scanner. Which model?
Prime Scan.
Prime Scan?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you prefer the digital scans, and you work primarily with Prime Scan by Dentsply Sirona, which is a CEREC scanner, and the 3Shape. What's the 3Shape one called?
It's that's Trios. Yeah, Trios.
Trios. So those are your two faves.
Yes.
All right. So James Dodge, it's you.
Yes, it's me. So my name's James. I've actually been in the dental industry since I was 16, so going on almost 30 years now. I've been here with Las Vegas Aesthetics for 17 years. Jen and I both started at the same time back in 2002. But I started out in the dental industry doing deliveries for a local dental laboratory, and that's actually how I met Ray. I've known Ray for the past 30 years now, and my role here is as laboratory manager. I kind of worked my way up. When I was 16, I was doing deliveries, and I just kind of learned over the shoulder as I've been going along. Learned how to do waxing, metal finishing, model work, worked my way up to porcelain, owned my own lab for a couple of years, and then I decided to partner up with Ray. And my role now is laboratory manager, so I kind of oversee everything that goes on at the lab, all different aspects.
Nice. All right, Ray, it's you, baby.
I think I'm going to date myself a little bit because I first got into dentistry in 1978 when I joined the Air Force.
Wow.
So I've seen everything. Probably about 10 years on the clinical end, chair side. So I've been a surgical assistant. I've done hygiene, worked in all the different specialties. But then I kind of translated over into the lab end of it. There were more opportunities for guys, getting into lab work than as dental assistants.
Which has really changed now that the United States has lost 50 million manufacturing jobs from 1980 to 2020. It's amazing how many men are flooding into the healthcare sector, which is the fastest growing part of the economy.
Well, I do notice a lot more guys in the offices when I go in to meet patients and doctors.
Yeah.
I am seeing.
Yeah, I've had a guy at the front desk. I've had a guy at the assistant. Yeah, they love it. I mean, they're making a lot better money. Plus, I'm out here in Arizona. Who'd want to be out there hammering shingles when it's 108 degrees right now and the high will be 115?
We're in Las Vegas right now, Howard.
It's the same here. It's the same here. You want to be indoors in the AC.
Another true story. Did you know my dad's brother, Mike Farran, was the first male nurse in Kansas?
No.
And guess why? He graduated from high school in Parsons, Kansas, and he never got a date with the love of his life, my Aunt Shirley. And he was so depressed. And he found out that she applied to nursing school. So he went and applied to nursing school. They're all like, you're a boy. And they're like, I don't care. And so he became a nurse. And it took till junior year before he married my Aunt Shirley. So he was the first male nurse for all the wrong reasons. And so Shahin, so what is your involvement with this lab? Why you did a podcast with us earlier, and what made you get interested in the lab side of cosmetic dentistry?
Yeah, so my name is Dr. Shahin Safarian, as Howard mentioned. I'm a practicing dentist in San Diego, California for the past 18 years. And the reason I got involved, it really goes back to really year 1, 2, 3 and my involvement with continuing education. But just to fast forward, 2014, I started getting involved with trying to find ways that I can help the dentist and have impact in the profession. And one thing has led to another, and here we are. Started talking to Ray over a year ago, and towards the end of last year, our conversation just kind of progressed into talking about how can we, as a lab and as a licensed dentist, create a program where we can really help doctors around the country and not, a local relationship. So that's how it all kind of started. We came out here in January, did a bunch of video recordings. We'll talk about that a little bit more, but really my goal is to create an opportunity. I know, the private sector, even any dentist practicing, there's much more of a squeeze today as far as, trying to get a bottom line. And so That's really the essence of what we're trying to accomplish with this. And also really give the opportunity for the doctors to really get proper cosmetic training with cosmetic instructors, and also have the lab make sure that they're fully involved as well. I mean, ultimately, it's a complete team process. And yeah, I've been really happy with these guys. These guys, as just so you know, Howard, they sponsored Las Vegas Institute for Advanced Dental Studies, LVI, for over 10 years. And they're currently involved with Clayton Chan's Occlusal Connections program, and also are involved with Myotronics. So you see three humble guys here, but they are very well diversified, and very high quality cases are coming out of this laboratory, from straightforward cases to full mouth rehabilitation with physiologic bite component attached to it. It's pretty cool stuff what they can do, these guys at their lab here. So I wanted to be affiliated with them, and thank goodness that they said yes.
Now, what you just said was a completely different story than what Ray told me about you. He said that when the Chargers left town, you moved to Vegas to become a Raiders fan.
Yeah, that's true. I'm waiting another 2 years for the stadium to build and get the season going. We drove by, actually. We came here yesterday and drove by the stadium, and they still got some work to do on that stadium.
You know why everyone in Arizona is mad at that stadium?
What?
You can't hire a welder in Arizona. They have sucked all the welders out of Southern Cal and Arizona, and the average income of a welder in Arizona is going through the roof. And my patients that are welders say they used to go from job to job, and now they had to get a calendar because they're booked up 3 months in advance, because everybody who knows how to weld is now in Las Vegas. So I want to start with some very specific courses, because podcasters tend to, a quarter of my homies are still in dental school and the rest are all under 30. Old people like us read books and newspapers and magazines, and they don't. So their first question, because they're very confused. So I just want to go, I started with the scan, which I'm a big fan of scans, just because with humans, if you go to loops, anything to increase magnification, loops, you see more. The greatest endodontists check about 8x before they obturate to look down at those canals and see if they missed any, they got all cleaned out. Whenever I oral scan a prep, I want to just burn my dental license, because you see your prep 40 times larger and you think, is there something wrong with me? I mean, I should be able to show one of my scans to a neurologist and he says, we'll find that tumor, buddy. There's obviously something in your brain not working. So I think magnification is huge. And I think a lot of labs are reporting less remakes with scans. But the next question they're going to ask is on these big cases, articulators or not? And it's confusing, because they graduate from school and they want to be a dentist just like their mom, and they're in there with their mom, and their mom doesn't even own an articulator. And so let's start with the controversy articulator to warm you up for the even greater controversy, which is occlusion, TMJ, neuromuscular, all that stuff. So let's go, Ken. So who wants to tackle that?
As far as the articulator is concerned?
Yeah. When to articulator or not to articulator?
On the larger cases, using an articulator, let's just say you're doing a case that's 4 units in the anterior, 4 units to say 10 units. Putting it on an articulator, having some type of a symmetry bite is very helpful. Plus, it gives you something to hold in hand. You can still do these cases virtually. You really can. And on the digital way of doing it, you've got grids so you can level things out. But I'm a bit older, and I like to hold something in my hand. With Yin, he can design a virtual case, and then we can go ahead and take that to mill and finish it. So we kind of do a combination of both. Some of the cases we do a modelless, 3-unit bridges, single units, 4 units, and even more you could actually do modelless.
Okay, so I got to play devil's advocate for the kids. So they're doing an anterior veneer case, or no, let's say it's an anterior crown case, 4 to 10 units.
Okay.
The four of you, do you want that oral scan and be modelless and all that, or would you prefer an articulator? Would you, as you say, to hold something in your hand? What?
I actually prefer the scan, because with the scan, we can do anything we want with it. If we want to produce a model here, we can send it to our 3D printer and we can print out a model. But if you can take advantage of scanning, I absolutely love the ideas behind scanning. The main thing I like about it is you can actually go in and check your preps. I noticed that the doctors that are taking scans, they're actually prepping their cases better. They can go in, they can measure how much occlusal space they have. They can look and see if they've cut a divergent axial walls for draw and everything. If things don't work out, you're going to see it on the scan, and then you're going to have a great opportunity to go back and enhance your prep.
And the other thing, I think when I listen and I read people talking about scans, I think they might not completely understand the digital transformation, which is basically the intersection of four really big things: elastic cloud computing, big data, Internet of Things, and AI. And what they have to realize is that big data, when you send in one scan, it says, okay, Howard, this is his scan. But by the time I've sent in 10 scans, I've 10x the data for the AI to machine learn what the hell is Howard trying to do. And then you scale again to 100 cases, scale again to 1,000 and maybe 10,000. The more you do, the more big data you give to AI, the better decisions it makes. So it's one of those things. And I need to, if anybody's listening to this and knows somebody in AI, I need to get somebody from Dentsply Sirona or AI, the technical computer side of it. But people don't realize that machine learning is all about big data, and with elastic cloud computing, to where what used to be, I mean, we've seen the death of statisticians, because it used to be, well, we can't analyze all the data, so we're going to get a stats guy to draw a sample size and build a well, nobody wants to do that anymore. When you have available with cloud computing, you want all the data all the time and keep machine learning it. And so these oral scans are, the quality is going to grow at scale compared to the old Egyptian way of the lost wax technique from thousands of years ago. So yeah, I think that the scan, and by the way, when you said you recommended the CEREC, they were building that when I was in dental school, and the guys from France that were building that were saying that the biggest problem was they couldn't do it right because the Intel processing chip was so slow and so small, they had to make all these compromises. But now with cloud computing or elastic cloud computing, what I mean by elastic cloud computing is, you have your own physical server, but with cloud computing, if you host it on any of the cloud computing, like Amazon Web Services, AWS, half their income, Microsoft Azure, IBM Watson, Google Cloud, if I just all of a sudden send in the biggest problem in the world, my cloud computing expands. So if they bill me 1 hour a day for 1,000 days, that's the same cost as 1,000 hours for 1 hour right now just to knock it out. So with cloud computing, I think this digital scanning is going to be the only way. It'll be just a matter of time when you'll say, no, we're not taking alginates and vinyl polys and polyethers and all that kind of stuff. Okay, but if they were going to send in an articulator, again, any favorites?
I think our favorite articulator would be the Stratus. That's the one we're most well versed in. That's the one that we use the most, is the Stratus articulator.
Stratus articulator.
So that's the one that we've been using for as long as I've been here. Stratus by Ivoclar is the one that makes that, and that articulator fills all our needs very well.
Nice. If they're going to take an impression and send it in on a Stratus articulator, polyvinyl siloxane, polyether, What was that green gel we used to use 30 years ago, Ray? The other ones don't know about this, but what was that green gel in the heated water bath?
Yeah, the hydrocolloid.
Oh, the hydrocolloid. You know, that's what I cut my teeth on. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that stuff.
You had to be careful with that material because you had to have it at a working temperature. So you had to be real careful on the temperature of that material because if you put it in the tray while it was too hot, you'd have a disaster.
When was the last time you got a hydrocolloid impression?
Oh, I don't even remember.
I don't know that we've ever had one here. I know I worked with them probably 25, 28 years ago. So yeah. I know a little bit about them too. I know that when you're the delivery person and you bring it back, if you don't pour it up right away, you're going to get in trouble the next day. I know that.
All I know is if you're out there using hydrocolloid impression, we assume you have an email that's AOL.com and suffer from erectile dysfunction. So what do you think are the biggest challenges for young kids? Again, I want to focus on these young kids. How do they learn how to be a cosmetic dentist? They just graduated from school, back in June. It's only July. They see this big case and they want to do it. What would you tell these kids?
Howard, we, and this is one of the things that we're really excited about. Starting 2020, we're going to get some of the best cosmetic dentists in the country to help us, educate either the new grad or the seasoned dentist. You'd be surprised how many seasoned dentists can get a little bit of help on prep design as well on these cases, depending on multiple factors. But with that said, that's what we're excited about. This opportunity is very inexpensive. And quite frankly, it's a free program that we have for doctors if they become members of our program. So conceptually, one thing that was really important to me is I wanted a cosmetic dentist that did a lot of cosmetic work and also directly works with LVE, Las Vegas Aesthetics Dental Lab. And we already now, as we speak, have a couple of doctors that are in the process of putting all of their work, documenting all of their work in conjunction with all the work that Ray and his team are putting together, and in the anticipation that we're going to launch the live programs nationwide starting 2020. Look, cosmetic training, as you've researched and obviously interviewed many people, it's not an inexpensive endeavor. And what we've really done is create an opportunity, quite frankly, that you actually save money by joining the program and you get the free training. And we can talk a little bit about that too. But there's a lot of details to cosmetic training, and the new grad graduating with $400,000 of school loans is not going to be able to afford paying another, whatever the number is, $4,000, $3,000 to get training for 3-4 days on how to do cosmetic dentistry.
Okay, my job is not to be an abrasive guy that's trying to be abrasive for the sake of abrasiveness, but let me throw you off a cliff for the purposes of Dentistry Uncensored. Are you ready?
Let's go.
So they come out of school and they all know that they didn't learn enough occlusion. And my gosh, speaking of occlusion, we all have to say a word to Peter Dawson, who passed away over the weekend. Just unbelievable. Peter Dawson is no more. They write, it is with heavy hearts that we announce Dr. Pete Dawson peacefully passed away this morning in the loving company of his friends and family. Our thoughts and prayers go out to him and his family. He lived from 1930 to 2019. It was one of my most favorite podcasts that I did. It was podcast number 500. And we purposely did an even round number like that. Like he was ready to go at like 470. And me and Ryan said, no, let's make it a number no one will forget. And then he just came out with his book, A Better Way, The Surprising Path to a Complete Life by Peter Dawson on Amazon. But basically the kids come out of school. Let's say their dad adored Peter Dawson like I did. I mean, just an amazing guy. It seems like yesterday I was having breakfast with him. And he is known with that CR, Panky, whatever. LVI is known with neuromuscular. And so the kids want to learn more occlusion, but the first fork in the road they have to get their head around is, do I go left with CR Dawson Pankey? Do I go right neuromuscular with myotronics? You mentioned Clayton Chan. He's a big neuromuscular. So explain to the kids, should they go right to LVI with neuromuscular or left with CR, and how are they supposed to approach this?
Yeah, look, to be honest, Howard, just do CO dentistry coming out of school, right? Just do general dentistry, do CO dentistry. Don't get confused into CR and neuromuscular physiologic bite. I think coming out of school, what you really need to focus more on is not necessarily occlusion and mastering occlusion. I think you need to master just being in the real world, dealing with just cutting crowns and, building up your speed, getting some positive results, getting some positive feedback from your patients. Right out of school, it's certainly something I wouldn't recommend getting into that rabbit hole. But if you are a little bit crazy and you want to be that 1% that wants to get into that arena, I would highly suggest being open-minded to all different camps and, go and see for yourself. There's a lot of people that talk a lot, right? But, there's nothing more powerful than you yourself judging because you've gone through it yourself. So I think that's the most powerful. I will tell you that, one of the things that we pay attention to clinically is every time a patient talks to me, their lower jaw comes down and forward. It doesn't go back and up. So that in itself tells me naturally that either the maxilla is deficient or the patient's lower jaw just wants to naturally come down and forward. But that's again, 15, 16 years later that it's easier for me to make that statement through my training. So I'm a little bit more down and forward guy and not backing up. So, judge for yourself. I think that's really the key thing. And I don't know if these guys will do any type of dentistry for you because, they've practiced all the camps.
Well, basically, at the end of the day, we're going to follow the doctor's records. So whether he is a CR doc or a neuromuscular doc, we're going to follow his records and apply those philosophies to the case. Now, we do have a lot of neuromuscular training here. I've been doing neuromuscular for 20 years myself. So I was trained by LVI. I was trained by Dr. Chan, Dr. Jankelson back in the day. So I understand that philosophy real well, but you've got doctors that have different philosophies. They're going in different directions as far as occlusion is concerned. So for us, we just adapt to what they want to do and follow their instructions. As far as the new doctors coming out of school, I would suggest that they you could go to Occlusion Connections and take level 1 to get a real good taste of what neuromuscular is about. And then you can go and you take a CR course. And then that student or that doctor can decide which direction he wants to go, but at least they're given both a chance.
Here's the areas that it becomes problematic. When you're trying to prep number 22 to 26 and the patient's got a deep bite, right? You got to at least understand the concept of opening vertical because you're going to be very over aggressive with that preparation design to get that to fit into CO. But generally speaking, you're looking at 95 to 98% of what I do on a daily basis, it's in CO. So, focus on the CO, try to just get comfortable with that coming out of school. And then like Ray said, in the first 3 years of your practice, getting out of school, go take a couple of courses through CR programs, and courses and Cloisters, 4 or 5 different programs out there that can educate you on the different schools of thought. And then that will help you now with your practical training. That will help you 3-4 years in as far as, what route you want to go.
Well, I definitely like your answer better, Shaheen, than Ray's because you were able to work in going down the rabbit hole with Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. That was, Ray, I'll give you a follow-up. You got a chance. Can you beat Alice in Wonderland in your answer?
You know what? There's so much to learn. If you go and take the intro course, it's going to expose you to a whole world out there of possibilities. As far as the neuromuscular end is concerned, I mean, we do a lot of neuromuscular cases, but we do a lot of CO cases also. So,
Okay, but she's driving to work and she might not be catching what's the difference in a CR case and a CO case. You've referred to CO cases 3 or 4 times. Explain that to someone who might have missed that.
so CO is just where your teeth come together right now.
Just bite your teeth together, and that's your normal bite. That's pretty much that simple. And then CR, obviously, there's it's been defined in different ways, but ultimately it's more of a condylar movement as far as pushing it back and more posterior, anterior. And then neuromuscular is a little bit more, down and forward as far as opening the vertical and bringing the lower jaw forward and not being as focused on the condyle, but rather being more focused on muscle relaxation and alleviating muscle fatigue. So it's a little bit more of a muscular treatment as opposed to a joint treatment.
It also depends on what the patient is there for. Some of the patients are there just because they want a prettier smile. Some are there because they have pain, they have issues, they're overclosed, there's a lot of wear. So you need to know how to address those. But the majority of people are going in, they want to do an 8 to 10 minute ear case. They want a wider smile. So just building them in their habitual CO, you really can't go wrong there. They're comfortable with that position. You address their needs as far as the aesthetics are concerned. So down the road, you don't have bite issues.
So you must know by now, Ray, since are you older than Yoda or less than Yoda? older than Yoda? Well, you must know, Yoda, by now that they'd rather swim with sharks than open the bite. Why is opening the bite so scary? Once you said open the bite, they just drove off the road and hit a tree.
It's really not that scary. We do these intro courses with Myotronics. We just did one in Baltimore, and it was all the basics of how to TENS, how to determine what your anterior Shimbashi number should be, and then shooting a bite accordingly. So those guys, they come and they'll spend 2 days, and I don't think the fees on that course are very, very much, but they'll spend 2 days. Once they get their TENS, they're ready to start taking bites. Now, as time goes on, they get better at taking bites, but they get enough information, even in that one course, to be able to go back and start addressing those vertical change cases. Whenever there's a vertical change, there's always going to be an AP shift. And recording that, you really do need the TENS to do that. I mean, you could just have the patient open and close and shoot a bite there, but now you're gambling. And when it comes to the neuromuscular cases, let's just say we're going to change the vertical, we're going to change the AP. All of that has to be tested with an orthotic. So you don't open the bite and then go straight towards prepping and finishing. You open the bite, you test it with an orthotic. If the patient's comfortable, then you can move on from there. So there are a few things that you do before getting in there and just starting to prep those teeth.
And you know what, Howard? You have to be ready for the information. If you're clinically not knowledgeable enough, and I hate to use that word coming out of school, the information might not make as much sense. And that's why I'm saying it's important to get some clinical training, go out in the real world, see some cases, get some feedback from patients during your examinations as far as what their chief complaints are, right? You don't need to open the vertical if the patient is not complaining of pain, for example. But you also, sometimes doctors open verticals, like I said, because they know that they can provide better quality care with a severe overbite, and they're asking to have their lower teeth prepped. So it's a big discussion. There's so many different dynamics involved, but one of the things that it does is it opens your mind up with a combination of understanding orthodontics. It really opens your mind up to understanding how to treat the oral cavity as a doctor, as opposed to just to be honest, just going in and doing some mechanical work on teeth. And that's really what it comes down to. You become a doctor of the oral cavity when you start understanding these different occlusal philosophies.
And this is kind of a deep rabbit hole, because when you start opening vertical and doing the AP shift, one of the things that we found to be true is a lot of these neuromuscular cases are actually ortho/restorative cases. So now you're going into even more. So you need to understand orthodontics to address bicuspid drop-off, things like that. So it starts to get really deep, but an intro course on the different philosophies is advised, just to get a handle.
It's really simple. Many of these cases, it's more based on maxillary deficiency than a mandibular problem. And that is the key, is that we forget that the maxilla is involved in this game, much more important in many times than the mandible. And so these are things where, again, it's just, 18 years in, this is something I had no clue about, right out of school. And I went to Tufts Dental, which is one of the top schools in the country. So, it's a fun game when you get into it, but maybe not right out of school.
Are you saying that Tufts finally got accredited?
No, they finally learned a little bit more about occlusion.
Well, Ray, I'm still upset with you that you just mentioned Alice in Wonderland again. You didn't come up with your own. I'm suggesting that you should have worked in the Matrix when Neo is approached by Morpheus, who tells him everything he has ever seen or heard is not real, and in order for him to know the truth, he has to swallow the red pill in his right hand, or if he wishes to resume the illusion, take the blue pill. I don't think just copying Shaheen's Alice in Wonderland quote was... It's what?
No, I told these guys that in March when I came on, I said, we already talked about ED a little bit. So I said, Howard is pretty cool. He'll be chill with you guys. So don't worry.
We need to get Morpheus to come on the show and talk about occlusion. Do you think we can do that? Actually, you mentioned Clayton. God, that would be awesome. You guys, you think you can deliver Clayton Chan to the show to keep the...
What?
We can absolutely do that. And you know what? I will tell you something even more interesting. Which again, this gets into the discussion of sleep apnea, right? I mean, this is a huge topic. Just picture what you do when you're when you deliver sleep apnea appliances to your patients. What are you doing? And that's conceptually the same thing. I mean, obviously, it's not in that drastic movement, and it's another discussion. But there's a couple of instructors that I'm working with right now. We actually, one of the other programs that we're launching, Howard, is going to be sleep apnea. Conceptually, the same idea as what we're doing with Love Bites. That's going to launch in about 3-4 months. And there's some amazing, smart doctors that are involved with that program. Some of the top guys, I've had to spend $4,000 to listen to 3-4 different occasions every 3 days. So what, $15,000, $20,000 to just listen to them. They're coming along with us and joining our program. So really excited about that. I'll share that information with you, Howard. And but certainly, I mean, these guys work closely with Clayton, and I know Clayton well as well. So we can do that.
Well, the reason I keep asking, another reason about neuromuscular and all that, and I want to stay on it, is you said you were down at Myotronics. And so when you go into neuromuscular, you might need to buy some equipment. When you're talking to Frey Adib, the CEO of Myotronics, who does he think are the which clinical dentists transfer the knowledge the best about Myotronics in his opinion? Like when you guys went down there, who was lecturing?
Well, you've got Mike Miyazaki, Sam Karani, Prabhu Raman. You've got Jeffrey Haddad. So you've got quite a few guys out there that are very, very knowledgeable and really excited about sharing this information with their colleagues.
And Clayton as well.
Yes.
Clayton Chan as well. I mean, he's got an occlusal connection program here in Las Vegas. And for those of you guys that don't know Clayton, just Google his name, and look up his content and see what he's done over the last 25 years with occlusion.
Yeah, his website's Occlusion Connections, and I was going to go to Las Vegas and go to that course, but I actually went to the pawn store to see my bald beauty brother. What Pawn Stars?
It's close to Pawn Stars. I know you're missing the R, but with that said, I think what's going to happen is Clayton will be really happy to come and talk to you. And look, the bottom line is, I've been in this game for 15 years as far as occlusal camps, and really a lot of the battles are people just talking. Just go and attend the course and judge for yourself. And if you like it, great. If you don't like it, great. Nobody's forcing you to think one way.
And all I want to weigh in is when they ask me, should I learn neuromuscular or CR? I always tell them, dude, you got to learn both. You got to learn 100 hours of CE a year. That's why I started this podcast. She lives in a small rural America. Most of these speakers don't come to her town. She might have a husband and kids, and I'm delivering people like you right to her dang car stereo on the way to work. And because in my 32 years at this, every dentist I know 32 years ago that got involved with the AGD or the FAGD and set out on this journey, taking 100 hours of CE a year, they learned their way out of any issue that came up, and they all did well. And then the dentists who got all upset because every 3 to 5 years he had to take 12 hours of CE to get his license renewed. They just seem to be unhappy and frustrated. And life is just so much more fulfilling if you master your occupation. And you got family and you got business, and there's just nothing more rewarding than being good at your occupation.
The main thing is to approach them both with an open mind. Just approach it with an open mind.
Yeah, and you went back, Howard, to talk about new grads, and that was initially your question. I would say master centric occlusion first, and then you can get into the other camps. Patients here will also tell you centric occlusion is a struggle for many dentists. So let's focus on the CO before you go crazy on the other stuff, right?
Yeah, and so much of the occlusion is even stranger now that general dentists are starting to get into clear aligners because you don't hear a lot. I'm not even going to throw myself under a bridge when I could throw all four of you under a bridge. A lot of the big occlusion people are not impressed with the way orthodontists. There's 10,800 orthodontists in America, and what do you think of the way the orthodontists treat occlusion? I mean, standard straight wire blows away the curve of Speed, the curve of Wilson. I mean, it does all these things in the name of beauty. So these young kids are out there and they're saying, well, the orthodontist doesn't do that. Do you think the orthodontists confuse the occlusion debate with general dentists?
Look, just because you're an orthodontist, I would say the same thing. Go to these occlusal camps and judge for yourself. Simple. They don't get Clayton Chan's neuromuscular philosophies in ortho school, so go learn it. It's something that we also didn't learn in dental school. There's nothing wrong with going and paying attention to what's out there. Just to hide behind the concept of I'm a specialist, I know everything. There's some limitations to that thought. So like Ray said, just be open-minded. It doesn't hurt you to go and say, hey, you know what? I went and learned something that I think can be very beneficial to my patients. That's the bottom line. So now, as far as ortho and clear aligners and, verticalization is a big component in opening verticals. This is something we talk about. There are wires that can accomplish that. So it is in the orthodontic realm to open verticals. There is neuromuscular orthodontic doctors out there treating cases. And, within those, there's some orthodontists doing it as well.
Clayton has ortho courses, neuromuscular ortho courses. So
I think the key is just take that initial camp of, what is the philosophy of occlusion under the physiologic by neuromuscular realm? What is it under CR? And then just judge for yourself. It's really that simple. If you skip those first or second course and jump into just wanting to move wires and move teeth around, you're going to miss the concept of what you're really trying to do. And I think that's where a lot of potential issues are, is you just skip the basics. And that doesn't allow you to have that mindset that this is really something positive.
But remember, if you get too open-minded, your brain will fall out. So be careful. So I'm going to go right back to economics. I mean, the 5 rules of economics are make it faster, easier, higher quality, lower cost, and smaller. And you stated that you think that what you guys are doing is going to save dentists money on their lab costs. And with this campaign, they might save up to 50%. So that perked my ears, and I hope it perked the young kids' ears. How do you plan on saving dentists money?
So, and sorry, I'll step in here just a little bit, talk about that, because that is a big topic. You have a range. I've talked to doctors, hundreds of doctors the last couple of years, and, zirconium for $35 that a lab is doing for you, all the way up to Emax, Laird Emax, up to $1,000. But I think generally speaking, you're looking at $350 to $400 range for high quality cosmetic work. And these guys are going to do that high quality cosmetic work for you per unit for $200. So if you're spending $350, $400, that's where the 50% number comes in. We have a doctor, it's $197 a month. So he has invested in 3 months, $600, and he has saved over $13,000 on his lab bill because he was paying the $350, $400, and now he's reduced it down to $200 a unit. And so that makes total sense. And to be honest, these guys right away said, well, this is kind of crazy. But I talked to Ray and I said, Ray, what is your 5-year goal? And Ray's like, I want to be out there. I want to educate doctors. I want to be in front of many doctors. I want to lecture. I'm excited. I love this profession. I love what we're doing. And we can do this to a higher volume-based clientele or doctor list if we're able to reduce the number and get more exposure. And it's really what we're trying to do with this whole model is if I can save your family and you, the doctor, and your business $10,000, $15,000, $80,000, $120,000 a year, depending on what you're doing, on your $2,500 return on investment, it's just a no-brainer. It's really just that simple. And we've also added a couple of other programs on top of that within this model that allows you to take advantage of Google Ads and kind of become a little bit more of a provider directory. So you'll get some SEO advantages. We have a full marketing team that's going to run this campaign nationally. So we have a full national SEO program involved with this if you're a provider. And they're going to also be involved with making sure that the content is up to date. There's just a whole list of other things that our marketing team is doing in support of this model with Las Vegas Aesthetics.
So, Shaheen, you're saying with this program that you're launching, Love Bites, that they'll be able to pay their alimony?
Close to it. It depends on where you live and what your income is. But hey, at least we can help you.
Okay, I want to switch gears completely. Everything we already talked about, let's completely end that and go on to a whole new topic. Instead of cosmetics and TMJ and neuromuscular and all that stuff, let's talk about the 2 fastest growing segments in dentistry are implants and clear aligners. So now let's talk all things implants. And then I also want to wrap up into all things clear aligners because when Ray and I got started in dentistry, we kind of cringe when these cosmetic dentists would show these cases where they file down all the front 12 teeth, the little kernels of corn and crowned everything. And a lot of people left and think, I wouldn't do that to my teeth. And now the modern day cosmetic dentist is unraveling all those cases with clear aligners. So I don't think you can really be a cosmetic dentist today if you're not doing mild class 1 clear aligner unraveling instead of over prepping teeth. But you can start there or you can go right to implants because implants and ortho are the 2 biggest growths. And the reason so is because dental insurance schemes, whether it be, national government dental insurance in Japan, England, whatever, they don't pay for ortho or implants. So you're able to set your own fee. Whereas the fees they give you for cleaning exams and x-rays, a lot of these dentists don't even break even. So if they're not using their insurance patient base, if they're not upgrading one of those patients a week to a clear aligner or an implant, they're losing money. But if they do upgrade one patient per week to one implant or one clear aligner. They're making bank, and they're the richest dentists in Cambodia, Indonesia, Malaysia. I've seen it all. So let's start with implants. What would you say to a young kid who's venturing out into implants, and how is your lab positioned to help them through implants?
We really like to partner with all the different implant companies. We do a lot of implants through the lab here, and we've been doing them for as long as I've been here. So we've been doing them for 17 plus years. So I don't even know how many implants we've done. But I think someone coming out, I think, definitely find a lab that's done a lot of them and talk to them and make sure that, they're well versed on doing those implants. We work with all the different major implant companies, Nobel, Straumann, BioHorizons, all of them. And I think it's really important to make sure that you're working with someone who's really understanding of all the different components of the implants and what to do, and someone that can help guide you through the decisions that you need to make as you're placing those. Okay,
well, you're not going to get off that easy. You didn't say anything for the first 50 minutes. I thought you were just there for eye candy, James. But
yeah, I was just here because they told me there'd be donuts at the end, so I was kind of waiting for that. Actually,
they always complain to me. He said something, didn't mention a name brand, or what you just said, mentioned all the name brands. She's driving to work. She's probably about the same age as you've been in dentistry. You named all these major brands, but if you had to pick one implant company, do you have a fave for her?
Oh, I think that's a dangerous question. As soon as I answer that, I'm going to alienate the other 4 or 5 major ones, right? So, that's called channel conflict. So you got to understand the person talking to you. Channel conflict. He doesn't want to piss off 7 companies, but right. So I think
do it anyway.
As she's driving and listening in the car, what I would do is I would say, give James a call at Las Vegas Aesthetics, and he will talk you through it.
And what is that? And what is that number?
1-800-711-6011.
So if you're at the bathroom now, Circle K right on the wall for a good time, call 1-800-711-6011, 800-711-6011. But the key takeaway that he did say, though, that I'm going to tell you, is he said major implant companies. And if you talk to anybody who does dental malpractice for a full-time job, when the implant case goes south and the implant company doesn't exist, the first thing they start doing is asking you for the literature to support this implant company. And now you're settling the case, and we haven't even got to the court. So, a major implant company is someone who's going to be around in 10 years. And you said Straumann, Nova Biocare, Implants Direct, BioHorizon.
And as you're saying that also, Howard, I think it's important that you make sure that your lab is using the genuine parts that go with your implant system. I think one thing that the labs do quite often is they try to cut costs here, they try to cut costs there. And with implants, there's so many different companies and so many different knockoffs that you want to make sure that whoever you're working with, if you're placing a Nobel implant in there and you send it off to the lab, you want to make sure you're getting back a Nobel abutment, something that came from the Nobel company. Because if there is a problem down the road, you want to make sure that you have the full force of Nobel behind you and not have to worry about, oh, well, I don't know what my lab put in there. I don't know what abutment they made. And now I'm, as the doctor, I'm here all by myself and I've got no one to back me up. So you want to make sure whoever you're working with is using genuine parts.
Actually, just to add a little bit to that, one of the recommendations also that I would say is see who is your local representative. Implant companies have sales people and also local resources for the doctors. So you'll see that you'll be able to call to a couple of different implant companies and see who the rep is. And when you contact a rep, that rep is responsible to give you and provide you with information and also the support that you as a dentist need. One of the things that I like the most is that we partnered up with local implant representatives, and together we do different study clubs. Now, likewise, there's been instances that we have a new doctor who is restoring their first implant case, and we're able to then, us as a lab, go and meet with the doctor and also meet with the implant representative. Now, both of us are able to help the doctor and guide the doctor through the process So they're able to understand what we need as a lab, and also they're able to ask the questions to the rep and get the support from them to look at the parts and pieces and also the procedure in general. Many times doctors don't have to do this by themselves. There's support for them. It doesn't cost them anything. There was an instance with a case recently that we restored, and unfortunately the doctor was not too knowledgeable of the parts and pieces, and I was able to connect with the implant representative, and the implant representative was able to be there for the delivery of the restoration to be able to help out the doctor as well. So I would say, see who your local resources are. Some implant companies don't have a local rep in your area, so therefore those implant companies, you're going to have a little more difficulty in being able to get the parts and pieces, or to be able to get the support that you need, or to have answers to your questions. But like the major implant companies, they do have a local support that you're able to rely upon, and also your local lab as well, or lab as well.
Jen, that was genius advice. I've said so many times, it's the rule of 52. If you're not doing one case a week, you're never going to reach critical mass in competency or profitability. When you get into sleep apnea and you're doing one case every other month, my gosh, they're worried about it the night before. They get to work early. They take way too much time to do the case. You got to do one a week to get really good and fast. And every single person I know that places an implant a week has a relationship with a local rep, and when I started getting into implants a long time ago, it was just a matter of, hey, there's 2 or 3 of us meeting at this restaurant after work for drinks. You want to come? And the rep was more a connector, a networker.
Sure.
And then when you got in over your head, they knew who would fix it for you, or who would help you, or who to show it for, or if the surgery, so it's everything. Same thing, like people always ask me, well, do I buy my supplies through Shine, Patterson, Benco? And I don't even want to tell you the answer, because I've been with all 3 of them. And why have I been with all 3 of them? I've been following the same girl as she goes from the company to the company to the company.
Yes.
I have a relationship with this
Correct.
person. And if she changes jobs, I don't care if she gets the Septicane from whoever, but right now she's working for Benco. So it just is what it is. It's the relationship first, and the relationship is going to make you do it better, faster. Just make sure the company has been around 10 years and will be there in 10 years, because the defense attorney is going to want to show that you were placing an implant where there was no research done on that implant. And the majors cost more because they spend a ton of money researching the implants they're selling you. And if you don't have that research in the United States, which is a very litigious society, then it's going to harm you.
Howard, on that note, you talk about malpractice. It's important also, as much as you can, you want to, as a general dentist, the first thing that happens if you get into a bad situation, they're going to have the defense is going, the plaintiff side is going to have specialists coming after your case. So what you want to do is you want to try your best to have predictable implant placement, which means today, if you can, use 3D technology, take your initials, use surgical scans, make sure you're actually using the proper steps instead of trying to freehand your implant cases. I think that's where a lot of times GPs get into trouble. And it's the early times that you get started, get into trouble, and you just, it's kind of like touching a hot stove. You stop doing it. So if you want to get into the game, get into it properly and make sure that you're protected. So if you do get a situation, you got all your documentation and they'll step away from you. I mean, sometimes implants fail. I mean, ask specialists, they fail in their hands too. So it is part of the surgical, risk that you take. So I think that's important to keep in mind as well if you're early on in the game.
All right. So clear aligners. Do you see a lot of cases where they're ortho, cosmetic, hybrid cases all wrapped into one? What are your thoughts on ortho and cosmetics, especially in the anterior?
The biggest thing is expand. Okay, expand your cases, expand your arches. you put a patient into an expansion appliance for 3 months, 4 months. Clear aligners, typically, my knowledge is expansion is about 2 millimeters predictably. And some of these cases need 4, 5, 6 millimeters of expansion. What you're trying to do is you're trying to, fill in the buccal corridors with your natural teeth. And you're also trying to alleviate being over aggressive on your prep design because you're putting teeth in a more ideal position prior to the actual preparation. So use expansion appliances. They have them in fixed fashion. You glue it on the molars with the bands, and they're geared. You turn them a couple days, a couple times a week, a quarter turn, pretty straightforward. And that's something that I think a lot of dentists skip that step in order to get that quicker production on that day. But what they're ending up doing is getting a result that's not as beautiful, if I can use that word, on the back end. So expansion appliances are key. As far as clear aligners, if the patient is anti anything with expansion appliances, then expand with clear aligners. There's nothing wrong with that. Again, a couple of millimeters of natural teeth is much better than cutting tooth structure.
We went over an hour. I can't believe we're already into overtime. I want to start on the left with Jen, then we'll go to James, then Ray, then Shahan. But she just walked out of school. She's $284,000 in student loans. There's a lot of people saying you might have made the wrong decision. You got into too much debt. There's too many dentists. There's one on every corner. Ray, I mean, you've seen so much changes in dentistry. I mean, Guy, you started the lab business back when I got out of school in 87. There were 15,000 labs. Now half of them are gone. So right. Starting with Jen on the left, what would you tell her? Did she spend too much money and was it a bad idea? What advice would you give her?
No, I would say that education, as everybody knows, it's going to be investing in yourself is the best investment you could ever make. So don't worry about the money. Just need to make the smart moves. And the thing is, sometimes you're asking the questions, not being afraid of saying, I don't know this. It's where you encounter the most knowledge from those simple, humble questions. Not knowing how to mount a case, not knowing what implant part to order, not knowing how to manage a bite, asking somebody that knows, whether it be a mentor, whether it be your local lab, or whether it be our lab, or whether it be a local implant representative. Acknowledging your shortcomings is actually pretty strong. Knowing what you're not capable of doing, so that way you could have someone help you along the way. So I would say, no, invest as much money as you can in your education and yourself. Ultimately, we all want to better ourselves. And at the same time, I would say, know your strengths and know your weaknesses, and those weaknesses, work upon them, so that way be humble enough to say, you know what, I don't know this part. I'll ask somebody that knows, and I'll get a lot of results from that.
All right, James, you're up.
All right, I'm up. Well, Jen took all the good answers, I think. No, I echo a lot of what Jen says. I mean, I think there's a few different things that I would do. I mean, Jen talks about finding a mentor or someone to help you along. That's one of the things that I love about partnering with Dr. Farran is I really believe in the program that he's putting together, because here's someone who's been been practicing for 17, 18, 19 years, and is willing to put this program together to be able to help mentor dentists and share his experiences. So I would say find someone to mentor you. I would definitely say look for Dr. Farran. I would love looking for online help. Dentaltown.com obviously has a ton of threads going on all the time where you can partner with dentists all over the place and put a question out there and get answers and get different points of view and different perspectives. And then, finding a good lab to work with. Definitely you want to find someone that you can partner with, that you gel with, that you work good with, so that you can have a good team and a good collaborative effort moving forward.
All right, Ray, it's you, baby.
So how
you gotta give this advice while working in Morpheus, talking to Neo in the Matrix. Should she take the red pill in her right hand or the left hand and blue pill in the left hand and stay delusional? You're wearing a blue shirt. Is that for the blue pill?
But I took the red pill. You know what? A dental practice, a dental laboratory, a hot dog stand, they're all businesses. And they have to be run properly. You need to know what your costs are, what you're having to put out on a day-to-day basis. You have to have goals set, financial goals set, and business management. I mean, it's really all about business management. In the practices that we work with, one of the things I notice at the really busy practices are they've got staff that are very people-oriented. The staff is really friendly. The doctor has patients that, they call friend. They get referrals from these people. It's all about relationships. What we do, like you said, you follow that sales rep from one company to the next, to the next, to the next. We'll do the same thing because we have a relationship with that person and it works out for us. But it really boils down to business management and having a plan.
Well, I think the best place to go for business management is SafarianMBA.com. That's SAFARIANMBA.com. Have you ever heard of that?
Barely. I think I've heard of that somewhere. Look, Howard, here's the simple truth. We're not trained to be in the real world. We're talking to that new graduate, okay? We're not trained to be in the real world. A lot of these new grads are, 25 to 30 years old, and they've been, institutionalized in the academic arena. So now you're in the real world. And what you really need to understand is you need to have the ability to work on yourself. And, it's interesting because I think what needs to be stressed here is how you can be calm in your head when there's chaos everywhere around you. And if there is chaos around you, it's your ability to be calm in your mind and in your approach that will allow you to persevere through the challenges of our profession. That's so important to understand. You can't become chaotic when there is chaos. That only becomes, it just becomes failure. And that's important to understand. Don't focus on the $300,000 loan, but focus on how you can best implement yourself into the real world. And make sure you realize that as much as you know how to cut teeth and place dental implants, you're dealing with real people that you're exchanging money with. That has nothing to do with the $300,000 you just invested on your class 2s and occlusal camps. You have to be able to deal with people in a positive manner where they respect you, they trust you, and they have value in what you're talking about. These things are things we just don't learn in dental school, and quite frankly, in our undergrad programs either. So I think that's really the key. I would advise you, as much as you're getting training on the clinical side of learning how to do clear aligners, how to place implants, and the different occlusal cams, you have to remember that you also have to work on yourself to make sure that you become a better individual. And I think that's the best advice I can give.
And what website should they go to? It's LasVegasAesthetics.com. That's certainly the website that Las Vegas Aesthetics has. We've collaborated with them, as we've discussed. LoveBitesSmile.com. That website is launching August 16th. We're really excited about it. Certainly share your information with us if you're interested. Howard, give his information. Give the phone number of the lab you can call. You can talk to me direct with just a simple get on Safarian MBA and we can communicate. We are launching a total of 4 national programs. Love Bites is one of them. I mentioned sleep apnea, the other one, and then Safarian MBA is the third one. And that's involved with practice management and some of the things that I touched on here towards the end. And then we're also putting together an online reputation social media program as well that I really believe is very important.
look, the reality is if you want to build relationships with your community, you got to be in front of your community. And this is one of the things that doctors just need to fully understand. You can't hide behind a photo anymore. You got to be in front as a leader of your community. And that's what that program is about.
So you're saying in 2 weeks, your website will be lovebitessmiles.com, LOVEBITESSMILES.
No S at the end. So smile.com. That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Let me, and
look, let me add this too, Howard. You can go on 7-Figure Dental Practice on Facebook. That's our closed group. Just ask to join. It's all dentists, and a lot of information is there. We have over 10 partners: Golden Goose Scheduling, Mango Voice, Legwork, and obviously Las Vegas Aesthetics, just to name a few, that are involved with our program. We're doing some amazing things for some really cool doctors. And to be honest, that makes me feel really good.
Well, once again, I'm ending an amazing discussion. Always wondering why is the bald guy always the smartest one in the room? Thank you, Ray. Thank you for carrying this podcast with those 3 other guys with all that curly hair on their head. You made the whole show. Thanks, gentlemen, so much for all you do. Thanks for coming on the show. I still want to get, I hope you can deliver Clayton to come back on, because a lot of these questions are driven by emails. I get about 300 emails a day at howard@dentaltown.com. You can ask comments on YouTube, which is on YouTube. But thanks again for coming on the show and answering so many questions from my homies. It's been a real honor to podcast you. And the next time I go to Las Vegas, I'd love to come by and see your place.
Absolutely.
All right. You guys have a great day.
Thank you so much.